Um, this is a follow-up, again, about my dog Haiti that passed away on October 23rd, Saturday 2021. Um, she had to be euthanized, which was brutal as far as making a decision is concerned. And the aftermath of that decision has caused me to search, do some soul searching, and to look for answers as to what happened over the last year of her life. And really it goes back a little bit more than a year. I had to have her operated on. I had to authorize surgery on her November 2020. But the 5 months leading up to that decision is really the focus of this video. She, Cocker Spaniel, I'm thinking somewhere between 10 and 12 years old when I adopted her. Moved here in January of 2020. And then going forward from there, I'm going to say somewhere around May of 2020, could have been June. I'd have to do a little bit more research on that, but that's about right. This building was determined to have bed bugs, and so building management, maintenance came into my apartment and sprayed insecticide around the base of the floor, all around the perimeter of the apartment, with bed bug spray, killer, whatever you want to call it. Ended up killing my dog, this spray. So they spray it where the floor meets the wall on the entire perimeter of the apartment, and then I had a couch that looked like it might have had some in there, and so they sprayed the couch. So I asked the exterminators, what's the risk to my dog? And they said, just have her out of here for like 3 or 4 hours. So they're referring to the vapor of the spray. But this spray goes on the floor where the floor meets the wall, and it stays there. It stays as a boundary. And if the bugs crawl across this, they die. They get burned and they die. Bad news stuff. Okay, this stuff is bad news. It's very strong, powerful, and it's kind of like a mine, like a landmine sitting there for a dog, especially the kind of dog that mine was. She, when I adopted her, she was starving and she was homeless, abandoned. And I have special soft spot inside for that situation. And she's gorgeous too, and unbelievably friendly and affectionate. I talked about that in the last video. But anyway, so, a creature like that that's starving an animal, they're always looking for food. And they've got this thing in their head, I gotta look for food. Even if I'm getting fed on a regular basis, she still has this instinctive habit of looking for food. Her nose is on the floor. Most dogs are like that. Their noses tell them everything, and they're looking for food. They'll have their nose on the floor. And so she did lick the floor. It just didn't occur to me that was going to be so toxic for her. So we go through May, June, July, August, September, mid-October of 2020, she starts showing some signs of difficulties. Bowel movements, things like that just seem to be difficult, and one way or another, loose or not. And then suddenly, beginning of November, she has her first seizure. And then she has another one. And then she has another one. I got some videos of them, and I finally went to my vet after the second one or third one. I called my vet, and when I told him about it, he said, get her to the hospital right away. I said, okay. I take her to the hospital. Turns out she has insulinoma, again, which I covered in the previous video, but this is a cancerous growth on her pancreas that causes overproduction of insulin, which causes the blood sugar to crash, which causes seizures and shock. Okay, when your blood sugar crashes. And this is not a diabetic. This is the opposite of diabetic. So they had to go in and take this growth off of her pancreas. I paid for that, and when she came out of it, she was weak, and her behavior just went downhill. Her condition pretty much degenerated into having, borderline. I had to watch for seizures, on the onset of seizures from there on, up until she passed away on October 23rd of this year. And I'm telling you this because I want you to get the word out as much as possible. I had no idea, and I'm surprised like the vet wouldn't know. I wrote a letter to the vet, by the way, the one that performed the euthanasia, and I said, I need to talk about this because I figured out what killed her. It was the bug spray from the exterminators that was on the floor, and it stays on the floor as a film, as a coating on the floor. But dogs just have this instinct. If they think there's any morsel of food in that area, they'll lick it, and this is what made her sick. And it got to the point where, past the point of no return. When I had her euthanized, first of all, it was emotionally brutal for me. It still is. Emotionally brutal, like painful, just hard to deal with day in and day out. But at that point, the symptoms spread and escalated. For example, she started bleeding. She had bloody diarrhea, which is just shocking to see. Although the doctor said, they see it from time to time, and there's a cure for that if it's caused by bacteria. I was sure that hers was not caused by bacteria. It was caused by cancer. She couldn't hold fluid. She vomited. Before the bloody diarrhea, she had, diarrhea, diarrhea, and very difficult to deal with. But the blood really freaked me out. I was ready to fight that and fight it, but then I took her to the hospital and left her there overnight. And I told this story already, but just real quickly, October 22nd, I took her to the hospital. They kept her overnight. She had bloody diarrhea episode in the reception area. And then the next morning, around 5:30, Dr. Rodolino, I hope I said that right, called me about 5:30 and said she'd been having seizures. The whole idea of her having seizures, if you saw a dog having seizures like this, a grand mal epileptic seizure, it's just horrific to watch and to see. And she needs sugar and steroids and food to try to offset it, but the emergency doctor said she'd had them continuously from midnight till about 5 o'clock, and they were giving her dextrose intravenously. And but the thing is, when I took the call, I said, okay, I'm going to come in. Please help her stay alive until I get there, because the seizures will kill the dog. I get there, and she's not having a seizure. She's passed out on her belly with her eyes closed. And my emotional state, my mind wasn't functioning right. It was like a crisis emergency, and I should have started asking questions. I didn't ask, why isn't she having seizures now? I have to ask that when the doctor gets back to me, responding to the letter I wrote. Her eyes were closed. A dog can have brain damage from this condition, meaning that she has a seizure, she has another one. These seizures can cause brain damage if you have too many of them and too short of a time span. It took me about 15 minutes to make up my mind to euthanize her. It was horrible. I don't like for anybody to go through this, but what I'm hoping this video accomplishes is the knowledge of the danger of this insecticide and the danger that it presents to any dog in a household. And looking back, if I had just did a better job of cleaning the floor maybe, or mopping up I don't know. I would have done something if I had known that there was an imminent danger like this, but I didn't know. And I want you, the viewers, to know and to tell your veterinarian, your friends that have dogs, anybody. It's awful, and it's avoidable too, which really bothers me. These things are not going away from me either, because it just continues to bother me. But I hope you have discussions or with anybody else that has dogs, or friends, family, associates, anybody. this is what healthcare needs, both human and canine or animal healthcare. It needs to have information and the truth related out to everybody this way. So thank you, and I hope you can spread this around.